to him. And for one, his English is actually getting a lot better. He was struggling to answer some questions back then. And now he's looks like he's ready to do some full English interviews. So really excited for him. And it means a lot for Hong Kong as well, because they really haven't had too many competitive players make it all the way.
Yeah, he mentioned last year that at BlizzCon, his goal was to put Hong Kong on the map for competitive Hearthstone. Well, once again, Yulsik pulling through as the #1 seed curse seems to continue time and time again. Yulsik taking out the undefeated player through first rounds.
Yeah, and he'll be going to the the Global Winter Championship at the Bahamas. So a big deal for him to prove his consistency. Consistency is one of the benchmarks that we use a lot of the time to prove, good Hearthstone play. So we'll see if he can make it. But talking a little bit about the next matchup. There's going to be Yulsik's opponent in the semifinals. Also another matchup to see who's going to go to the Bahamas. It's b787 taking on Lojom, and this is going to be a very, very tough matchup for Lojom. Let's go ahead and take a look at how these deck lists match up, and it's a long shot.
Oh, I mean, the long shot I don't think even begins to describe the position that Lojom is in as he faces off against this. He has built his lineup strictly to target aggressive lineups, and when I say he's built it strictly to target them, what I mean is he is quite literally sacrificed the control matchups. If you look at his control warrior deck, he's got a copy of Bolster, he's got Sleep with the Fishes, he's got Acidic Swamp Ooze, King's Defender, Harrison Jones, Grom. Hellscream is his only card that costs more than 5 in the matchup. There is no Justicar Trueheart. And in the control warrior matchup that B787's brought, he has no Sleep with the Fishes. He's got a copy of Doomsayer in here. He also has Harrison Jones, but he's got Sylvanas. He's got Gorehowl. He's got Justicar Trueheart. You can't rank up in this matchup if you don't tank up, and that is a big detriment, and that's just across the board. Every single step you look at it, Lojom's decks are capping at 5 mana and have no endgame potential in control matchups.
Yeah, now we do have to commend him for his creativity. He did something that no one else has tried to do, at least in this format, this late in the meta as well. This is, we've been in this meta for 3 months, and nobody's tried to do this in Conquest, at least not to this extent.
Yeah.
He targeted the 70% players that brought Pirate Warrior. It's a really great strategy if you're going in Swiss. His average outcome is 5-2, and that's where he ended. And he was going to hope that he gets his average outcome and then finds the 70% chance to get one of those players in the top 8 that also has the aggro lineup. So, I commend his strategy, but this is going to be a tough one.
Honestly, I really like his plan. I think his plan was great for this tournament. You're trying to target the most popular strategy that's out there, and he successfully did that. It's just this time, now that he's in the Gladiators arena, he's happened to run into the brick wall. It is the matchup that he just has very little chance against.
Indeed. Well, to get you guys straight into the action, let's send it over to Dan and Brian Kibler to get into it.
Thank you very much, TJ. I don't think your puns or your analysis is bad. It's sharp as always. And of course, always sharply dressed and looking good as always. It's Brian Kilber joining with me onto the main set. We're going to bring you guys a second quarterfinal. Who's going to be joining Yulsik in the Bahamas, Brian?
B787.
I'm just going to go ahead and give him the spot.
What those guys are saying, this is just a nightmare matchup for Lojom here. And like they said, I think that, it's great to see a player come out this late in a metagame and be able to find success with not only just an innovative lineup, but innovative decks. These are decks, no one's playing these decks. No one's playing these decks on ladder. No one's played these decks in tournaments before. But now, Lojom is going to have a massively uphill battle to try to win with them here, because B787 is bringing a full control lineup, which is just going to, frankly, dismantle Lojom. I'd love to be wrong, but I don't think I will be.
Yeah, what's really interesting is it seems like both these players took similar ideas, but just went about it completely differently. B787, he's playing a very slow version of a lot of decks in order to try and kill his opponent's aggressive strategy. Look at his Control Warrior, for example. His Control Warrior doesn't even have Elite Starseeker. That's just goes to show you the reference of how he doesn't care about late game. He just wants to kill his opponent's early game pressure. And Lojom has kind of the same exact thing going on here. So we have Rena Warlock versus a Control Warrior. Now this one might be a throwback for some people here, Brian, so why don't we go ahead and walk through some of the keys for both sides. So what does Rena Warlock really try to accomplish here?
Rena Warlock is trying to win this primarily through life cap, frankly. They're trying to out-resource the Control Warrior player, and that can give them a just overwhelming ability to just go sort of toe-to-toe generating threats via versus answers. One of the other key cards in the matchup is Jiraxis. Jiraxis it is just an end game win condition for the Warlock that can be very difficult for the Warrior if they aren't able to set up, say, a weapon plus a Grom plus a way to activate it in a single turn to actually finish them off from the full 15 line.
You know, Lojom has a bolster in this deck.
He does.
Which just because adds to the craziness. I mean, King's Defender was always somewhat debatable if you wanted to have more weapons and you had a lot of taunt means to get into the way. But that's how early curve minded this guy is. You take a look at some of the players he had to run into. He had to go through Palm Blot, he had to beat Yosek, one of the few players to do it this tournament, had to face against Tom, and the big elephant in the room is that he actually faced b787 in the last round of Swiss and got 3-0'd.
Yeah, he did not win a single game, which really isn't surprising. If you look at the lineups, if you look at the specific card choices, a lot of people think of, Control Warrior, it may have an X% chance, against Reno Lock. Maybe like a slight underdog, whatnot, but as they were saying on the desk, this isn't standard Control Warrior. This is Control Warrior that has tons of the end game cards replaced with just more anti-aggro cards. We see the Sleep with the Fishes in the hand. We see the King's Defender already in play. And he's going to be able to maybe pick apart these early minions, but it's going to be very difficult for him to ever really get a foothold and put pressure on b787, simply because he doesn't have the cards to do it. Just Grom in his hand, that's basically his win condition.
Yeah, and right below that, the next highest cost card is this Alloy Armorsmith. It doesn't have anything that's powerful in the mid stages of the game besides that, such as Sylvanas or even a Gorehowl, which helps you clear. He doesn't even have that.
Yeah, or even Justicar Trueheart.
Justicar Trueheart.
That's a card that has kind of been synonymous with Control Warrior since the release of the Grand Tournament, turning armor up into tank up. His thought process, clearly that I just want to defeat the early game of these Pirate Warriors, don't want to rely on getting to that late stage of the game where I'm tanking up. And if I can answer their early plays, I don't need to worry about getting the burst armor, the additional armor over time. And that will make it more difficult for him to, say, win the Control Warrior mirror match, where accumulating those huge amounts of armor can really be what decides the game.
All right, so let's find if there's a way for Lojom to win. One of the ways he can get ahead on the board is be able to find a way to get Grom to stick, but it doesn't look like that's going to be the key here. b787 has a Blast Crystal Potion already in hand and a Siphon Soul. Outside of that, I mean, there are some mid-sized minions that can be pretty nice here. Bloodhoof Brave and the Alloy Armorsmith, like we mentioned, but it's already looking like Lojom's put his back sort of to the wall here. Because the big problem is that his deck just doesn't have minions. Yeah. And it's gonna be a huge problem moving forward.
And maybe he gets some miracle where he gets Bloodhoof Brave and Alloy Armorsmith in play, gets a bolster off, and there's somehow b787 has already used that Twisting Nether on what? I have no idea. But I'm trying to create scenarios where Lojom comes out of this ahead. Right. It's tough though.
Yeah, and you don't really anticipate hitting other Control Warriors, so you're not playing Elite Star Seeker in your deck list. And this is something that a lot of Control Warriors sometimes rely on slower control matchups.
b787 even picks up Harrison Jones, so if Lojom finds another weapon, he's going to have an easy answer to that. Will give him further advantage in terms of resources. But yeah, one thing that I think is so interesting about Lojom's lineup and his individual decks is that he really went to the extreme. You see players who kind of bias their decks. People talk about like, teching for aggro in order to have, say, a Corruption in their, or a Voidwalker in their Reno Lock deck, or playing a Harrison Jones in their Reno Mage deck. That's their anti-aggro cards. He's just playing fully anti-aggro decks. He is really sacrificing a massive amount of percentage against lineups that are heavily control in order to give himself a significant additional percentage against aggro. That's worked out for him so far, but it's going to be really tough for him to find success here.
Yeah, a lot of Lojom's peers are saying, I think he's got a 0% chance, and it's looking like this game might already be over. He went for an early Grom because he needs that Grom to connect face 3 times in this game, and it got 0.
The longer that he waits, the longer he sits on that Grom, the less of a chance that he actually is going to be able to keep it in play, because b787 is just going to keep drawing cards, be more likely to find his removal spells, and it was very likely he had one there, and he did, but at that point for Lojom, it's just, I got to take the chance and just hope that you don't have it, but he had it.
It was looking like a good old-fashioned beatdown from this point on. The early pressure stages is now going to the favor of Arena Warlock, and Lojom doesn't have an answer.
One of the really crazy things, Lojom isn't even playing Brawl. He's just playing the Whirlwind, Revenge, Sleep with the Fishes, and that really low curve taunts with Bloodhoof Brave in addition to Ali Armorsmith. So if b787 builds just a really big board, Lojom has no way to remove it.
It feels like if Lojom just was willing to cut a couple of cards from his early game and just be reliant on some of the other curve, he could have played a Reno Warrior based off just the one, the one Bloodtaker, the one Slam, the one Bolster, the one Sleep with the Fishes. The list goes on and on.
Well, I mean, so much of the power of a deck like this is its consistency.
Right.
He's going to have that early removal because he has multiple copies of them. And I don't think that Reno would really improve his chances against aggressive decks as much as being able to just kill things early in the game consistently.
Okay, well, b787 pretty much could just have his choice of whatever he wants. The key is life tapping, though, because now with Grom being removed from the hand, there's really nothing that threatens b787 at any health point. He has to just make sure he doesn't get bursted by a weapon at this point. There's really nothing else.
As long as you don't get bursted down by Fiery War Axe, you're good.
And Lojom just draws more removal, and that's not what he's going to be. That's not what he needs at this point. And he's hoping that there's no minions on the other side of b787's hand. And to be fair, he doesn't really have much going on besides the Abyssal Enforcer and Reno. But look, this just tells you everything you need to know about the game. This late into the game, we see a Dirty Rat being dropped, and nothing comes down the other side.
Yeah, and Lojom's hand, he's got great board clear against small minions. He's got double Revenge. He has removal even for big minions with Execute and Shield Slam, but he doesn't have any way to keep up with Life Tap. I mean, frankly, this is what this game is about right here. This button right here is why b787 is just so massively favored, because every turn he can sacrifice health points to just draw additional cards, and there's nothing Lojom can do to punish that because he has no real aggression in his deck.
Bloodhoof Brave. So I think Lojom's starting to create a semblance of a strategy. I think he's going to try to sit on his health count as much as he can, clear the board in one fell swoop, and then try to use some minions to swarm back some pressure and hope your opponent has a completely dead hand. But with Life Tap available, it's not really going to be that case. Maybe against Reno Mage that would have only some couple spot removals, which would be really awkward, like Arcane Blast and whatnot, but it's not going to really happen against Reno Warlock, which is primarily minion-driven if they've given enough cards.
Yeah, this is just keep putting the pressure on from b787, and there's no clock on him. There's no reason that he needs to worry about getting to the stage that he's going to be out of threats, really. And crucially, as I mentioned before, not even a Brawl in Lojom's deck. So he has to basically combo things like Revenge plus Sleep with the Fishes or double Revenge in order to clear significant boards. He's actually not even low enough to use Revenge for a 3 damage AoE. He could bash himself and then Revenge, get himself down to 12.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, I guess he could also clear a lot of the threats off by using Whirlwind and Sleep with the Fishes right now. And try just to make sure he doesn't die straight up, because I think that's one of the things in the back of his mind. Can he even just stay alive and at least entertain the fantasy? It doesn't have to always be real, but
I mean, that's what he's doing. That's what he's doing right now, is
humor,
kind of holding on, trying whatever he can do to at least give the viewers a show here that there's an actual game going on. But this is not much of a game, despite the fact that both players are playing cards.
Let's see. I guess the Abyssal Enforcer is something that b787 is holding on to for a while. Maybe it's his way to remove a lot of the smaller, annoying minions.
And I mean, you might think, oh, well, maybe b787 could run out of threats. Maybe Lojom could kill all of them. No, b787's deck has Jiraxxus.
Yeah.
He has the ability to eventually become a giant demon lord who can summon demons that are ultimately going to overwhelm Lojom, no matter how long the game goes. He's already played Grom. He doesn't have any ability to burst down Jiraxxus from 15 health. He really doesn't have any way to close out a game against those Infernos.
Well, one possible way was if b787 rushed out Jiraxxus, and then Lojom played Harrison, drew a bunch of cards, and out-resourced his opponent before he's able to draw enough cards. But I can imagine that that's not going to happen.
The question is, out-resource him with what? If he drew the rest of his deck right now, what would he do? If Lojom literally had every card in his deck in his hand, how would he win?
He could double bash the face with War Axe, and Harrison hits for 5. That'd be 14 damage. Listen, I'm not saying that it's going to happen.
I'm just saying.
I'm not saying it's going to happen. I'm saying there was an opportunity somewhere in the 1 of 100 game. The chance isn't 0.
It's
but
true.
It's pretty close to it, but you at least got to try. You never know.
Maybe B787 has 10 cards in his hand, life taps and burns Jiraxis.
Before yesterday, I would have said no one would ever do that. 0 possibility.
I think we may see
stand corrected.
resummon 3. My guess here is he took resummon 3 plus 6 health. And look what it was. The fact that Lojom has no brawl means that this is a very effective potion in this matchup. Normally plus health against warrior, not super powerful because of brawl. But in this instance, B787 is going to be able to create a massive board that Lojom is going to really struggle to deal with.
What about the fatigue plan? I think B787 is also avoiding that by avoiding life tapping. He doesn't want to be in a position where he's so far in fatigue that Lojom can just play the removal game, and he's making sure that doesn't happen either.
It's that card right there. He just drew Jiraxis. He can't even over tap into it and burn it. And frankly, if Lojom decides to play Harrison Jones to remove Jiraxis' hands, he's going to be the one going into fatigue first.
That's true. And I'm looking at the deck list, and I mean, you're spot on, Kibler. There's nothing really else going on for him except for this Alloy, Arsonith, and Blood of Brazen's deck.
I mean, this is because of the way Lojom chose to build his deck. If he were playing a more traditional version of Control Warrior, he'd have a much stronger chance to be able to contest this style of game. But unfortunately for him, he is playing the ultra anti-aggro build. And B787, he knows there's no Grom coming. There's no burst. There's a bolster though.
Yeah.
But he just killed his taunt minions. Can't even bolster something.
He's also going to waste a lot of his resources if he's burning a couple of the valuable minions with Harrison. I don't know if you can afford to do that, though. This is not the kind of matchup where you can wait.
And this is Lojom's entire deck. He's actually going into fatigue right now. And this is, frankly, this is his best hope. Is to try and play out things to the board now.
Hey,
and burning an Acolyte of Pain, that's the best card in his deck to burn if he's going to be going into fatigue.
Hey, yeah, look, you got some minion pressure.
I mean, here he can play, a taunt and try to, set something up. But B787 can just potentially clear the board and use his hero power. He can resummon a bunch of things. He is, potentially putting enough threat in play that, there's something that at least B787 has to respect.
Well, I mean, hey, oh my goodness, he's twisting Nether. So now we have a bolster and an Alloy Armorsmith play. I'm not saying it's a comeback yet.
It's a legal play. He can do it. He can actually even Dirty Rat and bolster that too.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. At least make it fun. Which looks like Lojom's going to have to remove this little by little because he is dying too.
Yeah, I mean he is now in fatigue and he's taking damage every turn. He's going to be taking 2 next turn.
What about, man, if he pulls, let's say he pulls like Reno and then he has no way to really heal.
He doesn't need to heal. He just kills everything every turn.
But, I mean, he's also getting to the point where maybe he runs out of cards and maybe you can drag on the game a little bit longer. This is 6 damage through the Fiery War Axe. It's going to get it.
We have seen a lot of the taunt providing minions for B787 already. Yeah, it looks like it's going to go ahead and ooze this away. I mean, I wouldn't even be surprised to see a Doomsayer come down here. Just lock out another turn, put him further into fatigue, and then just get to play a Kazakus potion for 10 next.
Yeah, I think Lojom forgot about Ooze being in the deck because his opponent drew 29 cards. Very likely that he has it. And now, I guess you just go for
Here it
bolster.
is. Bolster. First time ever played in the Hearthstone Championship Tour, as far as I know.
At least not ironically.
I mean, there's a Blast Crystal Potion to kill the Armorsmith.
Yeah.
You can just trade into this. If he really needed to, he could Reno, too.
It might actually be lethal, I think. Maybe. It's close. I think there's just like, the point is you can effectively put your opponent, because I think Lojom takes 4 damage, right?
Well, you can kill both of his minions, and then Lojom has no way to deal damage. So it's effectively lethal this turn. Yeah. Sure. And Lojom, he recognizes that this is the end, and he goes ahead to concede. And frankly, that's the kind of game we're going to see in a lot of games in this matchup, because the bias that Lojom has toward aggressive decks means that he doesn't have the tools to compete in these control matchups, and that's all what B787's decks are.
Yeah, well, we're going to try to at least make it more interesting. B787 has Jade Shaman, and he has Reno Warlock, Control Warrior himself remaining. Now, Control Warrior can run out of gas if he's not playing any type of a card draw that's going to be able to get him access to resources. So that's one way you can win. And Lojom doesn't have access to the aggro shaman, so that is his best proactive deck. I'm trying to look at what's the most likely deck that b787 can get targeted here. What's his weakest deck in his lineup, in your opinion?
I don't even know that there's necessarily a weak link. All of Lojom's decks are based around removing all of his opponent's threats. And what we're dealing with are mid-range Jade Shaman. It's not going to run out of threats. It's going to be able to continually produce threats. Control Warrior, which is going to have tank up. It's going to be able to play a long game, get to that point where it doesn't rely on keeping threats in play. It's going to outlast you regardless. And then Reno Lock, which we just saw win.
Well, I mean, the Control Warrior doesn't exactly have the most amount of threats themselves, but you're right in the sense that it definitely has a lot more advantages. It has Justicar Trueheart, has its own Sylvanas and its Gorehowl, and it does have the Brotherhood of Brave and the Alloy Armorsmith in tandem of matching Rojom's list too. But it also has a lot more card draw, which feels kind of dead in the matchup too if they want to go through the long game. I don't know, man. What if it gets to the point where, once again, b787 can't remove everything and then one minion sticks? All it takes is one minion to keep shaving off armor every turn and you can't spot remove it. Just say you have a 4/9 Alloy Armorsmith on the board. You can't brawl it, you can't attack it, and kill it off. Maybe that's an opportunity.
There is a world in which that happens, yes. But the thing is, there's so much time with your hero power, especially if you're able to make a tank up. And here's Justicar Trueheart in b787's opening hand. I would not be surprised to just see him hold that. He also has Gorehowl. Yeah, he's going to go ahead and hold on to the Justicar Trueheart. That, frankly, turns any individual threat of Lojom's into a non-factor because he can just gain 4 armor every single turn. So that means even with a bolstered Alloy Armorsmith, Lojom will need help to do any damage.
Well, his primary win condition is to fatigue out his opponent.
Lojom's is? That's not going to work against Justicar Trueheart.
But his opponent has a much more draw-intensive deck list. He has shield blocks and 2 acolytes.
It's true.
Lojom only has 1 acolyte.
Though you just don't have to play those cards. You just play Justicar Trueheart, and suddenly every turn that nothing happens is enormously advantageous for you compared to your opponent.
Right, but I'm saying in the world where Lojom gets board control and is able to pressure his opponent's armor, he's effectively ahead in fatigue.
He can potentially get Dirty Rat and Dirty Rat out the Justicar Trueheart. There it is, Dirty Rat. He could Dirty Rat out Justicar Trueheart before it comes down and make it so that b787 does not have access to the improved tank up. But there's Justicar right now. Lojom, and we saw a little laugh from Lojom as he's like, all right, well, what do I do now? Because,
I think he played too fast.
Yeah, this right here. Now, this button. Every time it's been the button on b787's board that's going to win him the game. And tank up really in a game where both players are doing nothing but removing their opponent's minions. Whoever has the better hero power is often going to come out on top. Last time we saw that between Life Tap and the Jiraxxus Summon Abyssal. Now we see it with tank up.
I mean, I was trying to go to bat for Lojom for the past few minutes here, and he had an opportunity. He had a 50% chance to knock out Justicar Trueheart and increase his
I agree
chance,
with you that...
And he just went past and didn't even think twice.
Yeah, if I were in Lojom's position, I would have 100% played Dirty Rat there. Your opponent is going into a 5-mana turn with the coin, which means that if they have Justicar Trueheart, that you can get it out of their hand potentially. And that's the only turn where that can possibly happen. So I do agree with you that Lojom, kind of needed to take that a little bit more slowly and respect the possibility of his win condition, which very well may be Dirty Rat the Trueheart.
Yeah, I just think that's a sign of a player that is a little bit frayed right now.
I frankly think that he may have kind of conceded that he's not going to win this matchup. I think that he may have sort of be in a mental space that he realizes he's such an enormous underdog. Interestingly enough, b787 actually reached out to Soddle on social media last night, and he said, well, I feel like the pressure's all on me now because everyone expects me to win. Everyone expects me to blow him out, and if I were to lose, it would just be embarrassing, basically, because he has such a structural advantage from the lineups.
All right, well, Lojom picks up minions, and it's not like b787's hand is the best. 2 shield blocks and Revenge feel a little dead. I guess you could use it with executes. But the big problem is Lojom doesn't have anything that's able to really significantly pressure his opponent here. And Dirty Rat's just sitting dead. What else is going to hope to pull out with Dirty Rat? at this point. They're trying to play the Control Warrior dance, very similar to Freeze Mage Mirrors, where their hands are too full, and rather than milling a card, they just use their most useless cards.
Yeah, this is.
But he's fallen so far behind. You know, just like you mentioned, Kibler, he's losing turns in the fatigue game.
Yeah. What this matchup ultimately does come down to is both players are out of cards. Each of them can kill the opponent's minions. There's not enough minions in the deck to survive all of the removal. That means you get the fatigue. Once you get the fatigue, this number matters, the armor for each of these players, because it is essentially whoever has built up more armor over the course of the game is the one who survives more turns of fatigue. You really don't have the one last minion stays alive and wins it. Way too much removal for that. So here, b787 is just structurally favored because he has that tank up hero power. His armor total is going to get so much higher than Lojom's that he has a massive advantage in fatigue.
Bash is used, so if Lojom wants to place a smaller threat, it is a little bit easier for his opponent to...
One good bash deserves another.
I
-3,
guess so.
+3, I'll take yours. I mean, one way, potentially, that Lojom could win, if he could Dirty Rat an Acolyte of Pain, and maybe get three points of damage incrementally on that Acolyte of Pain. You know, Dirty Rat's the Acolyte, uses, say, Ravaging Ghoul and Whirlwind and Revenge, and forces b787 to draw 3 cards. That could happen. And that's, I think, frankly, a reason you don't see b787 playing this Ravaging Ghoul right here. I think that he's holding on to minions in his hand that he knows he won't need to win. He's not going to be putting pressure on with them. He just wants Dirty Rat protection for Acolyte of Pain.
The opposite could happen too. b787 is able to kind of, you know, sometimes you're trying to toss in your own Acolyte and Brawl if you're trying to be defensive, so it's not necessarily guaranteed, but I do like that he's keeping his head in place and making sure not to just play that radical useless thing. 'Cause that is a card that's not really doing much here. And look how desperate Lojom is. He's just equipping a Fiery War Axe #2 and just attacking because he needs to get some things out of his hand. The nice thing about his position is that his opponent got the coin, so he's a little bit further into his deck, even though neither player has really played any card draws.
This is actually kind of a liability that b787 just picked up. The Sylvanas as well. It's a minion that's dangerous to play in the matchup for the exact same reason we just mentioned with the Dirty Rat. The threat of Acolyte of Pain coming out, your opponent can play Acolyte of Pain, then kill your Sylvanas, and that means that you'll take control of the Acolyte, they can force you to draw, you go deeper into fatigue.
I like this from Lojom, playing Harrison after he knows he can't draw. I'm kind of have to wonder if I'm Lojom, do I ever attack with this weapon? Because then my opponent can't ever really play Harrison Jones too, and he draws 2 cards into fatigue. This is some of the small things that he's trying, and boy is he trying. I mean, he's throwing everything in the kitchen sink at b787, but it doesn't seem like this pressure will work out either, because b787 can deal with this pretty easily. I think this actually might even warrant a brawl.
Well, you're almost never going to see more than 2 minions in play in the matchup, so you at least have Brawl as a cast spell. So yeah, b787 does take the opportunity to fire off the Brawl.
Okay, and this is a point which Lojom might be happy to actually get in some damage with Harrison. Just anything he can do to chip into the health.
Did he not attack?
I don't know.
It looked like he just didn't attack. I wonder if that was just he had gotten into the just armor up pass sort of play pattern a little bit too much and forgot that he gets to keep a minion in play. Yeah, it's a little bit of a sigh from Lojom there. I really think that he's kind of in a bad mental spot right now just in terms of feeling so despondent about his chances in this match. He's made a few sort of missteps here that, frankly, I don't know that they'll cost him because I don't know that he has a great chance to win anyway. But definitely, are plays that he would not make under normal circumstances.
Brian, 1% compared to 0% is still infinity.
It's true.
It's
true.
Difference. So I think the fact that Lojom is not even trying to really maximize his chances in every single category. Yeah. I mean, what kind of story would it be if he was able to upset his opponent?
There's the
here?
bolster.
And one brawl's been used, right?
Yeah, one brawl's been used. I mean, does he go for Blood of Brave into Dirty Rat? No Dirty Rat.
I think Dirty Rat loads up the board too much for his opponent wants to get value off the second brawl here. And you know what? I mean, b787 doesn't want to have to use Shield Slam on this. Perhaps this is where you toss in Sylvanas. Your opponent might give you a minion and you get to throw it You get to challenge that.
I think that Sylvanas is just so dangerous. The only way you lose, I feel like, from b787's position is if you somehow get some sort of crazy Acolyte draw forced on you.
That's fair.
And I feel like, I mean, he can just ignore this 2-attack minion. He's tanking up for 4 every turn.
That's fine.
And if somehow Lojom makes it more powerful, you have a lot of tools to deal with it.
Yep. You're absolutely right. In that case, if he steals the Acolyte, or if his opponent manufactures a way through Whirlwind.
I was actually going to Sylvanas Shield Slam himself. This I like because he gets even the risk of his opponent dirty ratting his Sylvanas. 47 damage, by the way, to that Sylvanas.
Pretty strong removal.
I don't know why he just didn't Shield Slam face. His opponent's at 47.
Yeah, actually, you're right. That could be interpreted as a mislethal if people still remember that you could Shield Slam the face. Not really the case in this scenario here. Lojom picks up Whirlwind, another useless card. Man, he's going to have to toss out something here. Looks like he's leaning towards Grom, but he knows his opponent will most likely have a removal opportunity for this.
I think we see b787 kind of mapping out, okay, what are the possible things I need to worry about here? Is trying to figure out what are the threats, what do I need to answer? And yeah, he just has Execute for Grom, Tank Up continues.
Okay, well, b787 pretty much can just still chill, but he's out of single target removal now. So if something sticks onto the board here, and I mean, Lojom, I hope he's been paying attention because the Shield Slams have been used, the Executes have been used. If he can get a single target removal there, and now one of the dangerous cards comes into the hand, that's Acolyte of Pain. Is it time for Lojom to pull a trigger on the Dirty Rat? Oh, he has a Bloodhoof Brave tucked in the corner there, so he could still continue to try and put a single target onto the board and get some damage in. But that Bloodhoof Brave, well, that shield better get to work. He has a lot of armor to pierce through before he's able to get to the health total, if at all.
Yeah, he really needs to use that axe he has to grind,
Oh, does he have an axe? I can't even see.
Well, that's what he says. He says, I have an axe to grind.
Oh, okay. I can always rely on you, Brian, to be able to pull out the...
There's another Dirty Rat. So he's actually just going to bolster this board by itself, perhaps?
Well, I mean, he doesn't want to extend too much further onto the board because he's afraid of second brawl.
It's true, but I have to think that maybe the Dirty Rat plan to try to get an Acolyte out there, maybe the primary road to victory that Lojom has. This 4-8, it's at least chipping away the armor. Now he's knitting 2 a turn rather than losing 2 a turn functionally in terms of the relative health totals.
Yeah, b787 is now down to only 89 health. And looks like he doesn't have a very clean removal outside of the, well, before it was the Grom that could help him get rid of it, but now he has to part ways with the Revenge and the Grom in order to cleanly remove this Bloodhoof Brave. If he uses Revenge, does he lose anything else too significantly? Not really. He still has Ravaging Ghoul if he needs any kind of Whirlwind effect to activate, but it is weakening his Dirty Rat protection. Right now, he's got a lot of insurance. And remember, Grom is also protection, too, against Dirty Rat. So a little bit of an awkward situation for b787 here.
Yeah, and taking all his time, going to the rope, as if this weren't taking long enough already.
I mean, come on, this might be the one game
I'm not saying,
that Lojom can actually win.
It's totally understandable these players taking their time. It's definitely very high stakes, tough spot, even if there is a big structural advantage. And yeah, is going to go ahead and clear that off. Grom is still alive. Ali Armorsmith is, another potential threat here.
If he lands Dirty Rat onto the Acolyte, he's got Whirlwind. Oh, okay, he's just going to wait again. I mean, the Whirlwind would be very efficient clear.
Yeah.
It helps force opponent draw a card. It kills off the Grom. But I think he feels like he needs to pick up, another Revenge here. So that way he can Whirlwind Revenge and then hit with the weapon to kill off Acolyte, all for 3 draws. And that's it, the Revenge. So he has the 3-card combo.
Yeah, this is his win condition.
Yeah.
Is Dirty Rat, force Acolyte into play, and both Acolytes are going to be in b787 hand here.
Yeah.
This is getting to a point. Interestingly, you did mention that the number of cards that draw cards in b787's deck could end up being a liability. And now he has a hand that is largely full of those. And most crucially, those 2 Acolytes, because if those Dirty Rats are able to get those Acolytes into play, that can really allow Lojom to send b787 really deep into fatigue.
Listen, Brian. Sylvanas, Gorhal, Gromish, and Jessica Artura are all gone. It's pretty
Well,
much.
Jessica Artura is not gone. This
Well,
is still right
okay,
here.
her spirit lives on vicariously through the ghost of Tank Up. But I'm saying there's no real like big minions that can be chunking damage. And B787 has an ally armor smith, which effectively works like a Tank Up. It's getting 4 armor per turn. Not to mention that B787 also doesn't have any Dirty Rat in his deck. Instead, he put Doomsayer.
Yep.
So he has no way to interact with his opponent's acolytes to even out the grounds. And remember, if he's not playing any minion to remove the ally armor smith and create board tension, then he's effectively losing any advantage he has from Tank Up, and there's still a few cards to draw. It's just a few
Passing
turns.
on this hand, he's going to burn a card, right? He has 10 cards in hand.
Yeah.
So I think B787 is thinking, okay, what are my remaining cards in my deck? And thinks that he's better off not drawing one of those cards effectively and forcing his opponent to potentially also burn.
Lojom does not want to ruin a good thing. I think he's thinking about burning a card here. He's wondering about what cards have I not drawn yet? Do I need any of them? And now that he has Blood to Ichor, that's another card that you can force to draw an Acolyte. And I think Lojom's saying I don't need any of the cards.
You know, Lojom is actually, he has really just navigated to get to this point.
There's 3 cards remaining. We know one of them is Shield Block, for example. And I think the other one is
One of his acolytes.
No, he only has one Acolyte in his deck.
Okay, yes, there's just one Acolyte, which is already in his hand.
I'm trying to count if he used both Ravaging Ghouls. I think he used one Ravaging Ghoul. So there's only a few cards left remaining in his deck, and there's nothing that's too significant. Remember, he used Grom, he's used his Ooze, he has to Sleep with the Fishes. And I think Lojom might have everything he needs, and B787 is just drawing more ways for him to deal with aggro.
And
two
also,
slams is not going to do anything.
Fairly crucially, B787 was on the coin this game, which meant that he drew a card first.
Right.
So he's going to fatigue first, which is a very big deal in these matchups. The player who is going to be going to fatigue first has the onus on them, effectively, to do something. They're the ones who have to actually bring the game to conclusion, or have a massive armor lead so they win anyway. But Lojom does have these additional threats remaining.
Okay, so King's Defender, we saw that last game, so that is one of the cards remaining. We do know that Shield Block is also a possibility of being burned next turn. B787 just picks up Doomsayer. That's not going to be helpful. And now the fatigue race is really close, but Lojom's just playing the waiting game. He's saying, I can pull out those Acolytes and commandingly burst you when it starts getting to 10, 11, 12 damage of fatigue.
And I wonder if B787 is thinking, okay, do I want to play this Doomsayer, or do I want to just hold it as Dirty Rat protection? He wants to ensure, and I expect that he may do just that. I think that he may hold all of the minions in his hand, and potentially even just burn this last card. I'm trying to figure out exactly what the last card is. Maybe it's Revenge number 2. No, he played Revenge number 2 to activate Grom. He'd cycled a Revenge on an empty board. Okay, he's actually going to go ahead and just make a board himself. Pushes in with the Bloodhoof Brave and uses the Slam to not draw. But now every Dirty Rat has a 50% chance. Oh, Lojom burns a Shield Block, so a card he did not want to draw anyway.
Yeah, he's more than happy because he didn't really want to use it anyways. And now B787 is using more of his Dirty Rat protection with Doomsayer and Harrison only in the hand, which, by the way, B787 didn't want to play Harrison because of the threat of weapon card draw. This is now what it's all been setting up to. Yeah, so that Ravaging Ghoul that we thought was in the hand is the case here. Now Lojom, kind of unfortunate for him.
The Dirty Rat Acolyte plan. Does he get it?
Oh, he got an Acolyte!
It is! Acolyte of Fate. Look at B787's face.
A second Acolyte?
Is he going to get another one? No! Oh my God!
And he's got Whirlwind, he's got Revenge, he's got Sleep with the Fishes to finish it all off.
This is what he was setting up for all game. If this was his win condition he's been planning for, he was just going to get to the point that B787 had all of these in hand. Look at the clap from B787. He's like, all right, you got it, man. You did it.
You laughed, Brian. You laughed at me when I was talking about there's a chance for him to win this game.
I mean, this is what, when we got to the point where these Acolytes were floating out of the hand, you're saying this is how it could win. And this is exactly what he did. I love it.
All the haters coming out of the woodworks right now and show your faces. This is retribution.
The thing is, look, Lojom here is actually, he's not convinced that he's won. I think that was actually getting up to 6 points of fatigue here. Now he's going to Shield Slam again to ensure that it hits fatigue and doesn't get brawled away, for instance. And there's still an Execute remaining in his hand.
Yeah, he actually kept Sleep with the Fishes, which is a little interesting considering
He
that.
didn't want to damage his own minions, I feel like.
Yeah, but they would survive. Oh no!
Now, Blood of Brave from b787, maybe that takes it down.
Wait, but now because he didn't use Sleep with the Fishes and he used his Blood to Ichor, that Harrison Jones actually is.
Harrison Jones and Blood of Brave could still win the game.
What? Wait, no. Why did he use? Why did he use a Shield Slam like that? I think he thinks that Sleep with the Fishes would have actually damaged the Acolyte. It would have prevented the draw like it's an execute, but it actually just deals 3 damage.
Is he playing his own Acolyte?
He's playing his Acolyte because he's so confident that he's able to get the draw that he needs to have this deal damage, and so he can use Sleep with the Fishes to kill Harrison. But Blood of Brave introduces a roadblock to it.
Oh my!
And now
9 points of fatigue, but.
Did he just throw away his one chance in this series, Brian?
Oh my God, we got to such an incredible dramatic point. Both Dirty Rats hit both Acolytes, and is Lojom still going to lose? He's behind in armor, he's way ahead in fatigue, but he's the one who's taking 7 damage a turn from minions. 10 points of fatigue.
I don't know. He's pretty far ahead in the fatigue, but
Well,
this is gonna come down
now
to
this
the
is
wire.
enraged. Now the slam puts it further into fatigue.
There's no way. Now Lojom to accelerate his fatigue by 10 every single turn. I don't think he can come back from
No.
this. I think Lojom just threw the game. He just handed on a silver platter to b787.
Yeah, and we see his head in his hands there. I think he recognizes, yeah, he needed to use Sleep with the Fishes to get those that damage on the Acolytes, then save the Shield Slam to deal with Harrison. That game was crazy.
All he needed to do was
Your head is literally in your hands for a minute. Literally in your hands.
My vein in my temple is about to burst, Brian. I can't handle this. He had one job, play Sleep with the Fishes, and he didn't do it. He didn't do it, and I'm mad. I'm mad. You don't go all the way to the top.
You were rubbing in that he was going to win.
You don't make me look like an idiot.
Going off. Oh
Now
my
I'm the
God, he
fool.
wins. He wins.
Now I'm the fool. Which was you knew this all along, right? You knew this all. Somehow, part of you, Brian, always knew that he would be able to go up 2-0. And now b787 is 1 game away from joining us in the Bahamas. But what a way to go! You could see it too. b787 was so worried when the Acolytes got pulled. That was the exact scenario he needed. Both those Acolytes, out of 4 or 5 minions, need to be pulled in that position.
Yeah, and take a look at that exactly that moment in the game. And we were talking about this the whole game, how b787 was holding multiple minions to protect from Dirty Rat. Here comes one Dirty Rat, hits an Acolyte of Pain. Lojom plays the second Dirty Rat. It hits the second Acolyte of Pain. And then just see the reaction from b787. He was thinking, this is exactly what I don't want to have happen. Here it is. And then Lojom, fires off the Whirlwind, fires off the Revenge. The fatigue starts adding up. But then, the very last decision that he makes, he decides to use the Shield Slam to hit the Acolyte of Pain, rather than using the Sleep with the Fishes to hit both of them. I think his thought process might have been, okay, I want to ensure that I get this Shield Slam on the Acolyte, ensure that you get the draw off. I don't want to damage my own minions, but he ended up getting them brawled away anyway, and yeah, just look at the reaction from b787. I think if he had played Sleep with the Fishes there, he very well might have won that game.
5%. That was the odds of pulling both those Acolytes in that very situation. 1 out of 5 times 1 out of 4, and Lojom hit it. So 5 out of 100 times that only happens. That's so rare, and he just burned it all to the ground. And it hurts, Brian. It physically hurts to watch that happen. I can't believe it, dude. And now we're going into game number 3. If I'm Lojom, which, by the way, he already kind of had opportunities, a couple missed attacks here and whatnot, so his mindset was already kind of in disarray. I can't imagine how he's coping with what just went down.
Yeah, and now he has to beat the Jade Shaman deck from b787. Not once, not twice, but 3 times in a row with his basically attrition-style anti-aggro fatigue-ish decks, And that's just not going to happen, frankly. The Jade Shaman has such powerful tools for continuing to generate significant threats over the course of the game. He doesn't have enough removal to keep up.
I can't go on, Brian. You're on.
All right, well, Lojom, this is he does go to the Warlock, which frankly is likely his best tool against the Jade Shaman. He has access to Life Tap, which gives him additional resources. He has the Twilight Drakes, which can actually be meaningful threats. So he has the ability to be at least somewhat proactive with this deck, which is sharply at odds with his sort of other strategies, which are purely defensive, purely reactive.
Yep, he has the Twilight Drake in the hand for Rojom, so he does have a couple of ways to put on some pressure and get the board advantage. But with that Hex pickup from b787, he's looking pretty fine. Jade Shaman, very hard to outvalue. One of the decks that can do it, though, is Reno Warlock. They do have access to very powerful ways to move the board with Twisting Nether, but that's not the case. Rojom might look like he's playing Arena Warlock right now, but it's not in any scenario. In fact, this is the highest curve that he'll hit besides second-rate Bruiser.
Yeah, and Twilight Drake, the absolute biggest threat in his deck. To let you guys know, if you just tuned in, haven't heard us talk about how crazy Rojom's lineup is, this is not Reno Lock. This is a mid-range Warlock, just defensively oriented. We see that second-rate Bruiser. There's the top of his curve. That's the most expensive, most powerful thing in his deck.
And it only
He
costs
found
3
his
mana.
bomb already.
There it is. I mean, usually you want to grab the tempo, and he is grabbing the tempo. There is a world where the Shaman can get drained out of resources. Life tap is really strong. And if b787 overextends into Hellfire and to Demon Wrath, there is a possibility that Rojom can outvalue his opponent, but it's pretty slim because b787 knows what his opponent's up to. It might be different if this was the beginning of the tournament and Rojom's deck lists weren't even revealed to his opponent, but because he knows what type of strategy he's trying to employ, this is not going to work out in Rojom's favor.
Yeah, b787 can just take things at his own pace, does not need to run the risk of, that's kind of interesting. He chose to trade off his Totem Golem. He's going to try to play around Hellfire there, and yeah, it ends up working out as we see the second copy of Hellfire picked up. So if you didn't believe us, this wasn't a Reno deck.
Yeah, right.
That may show you.
Either that or it's the worst Reno deck of all time, just putting multiple
I got
duplicates on a
double
lot of
Dirty
cards.
Rat, I got double Hellfire,
Yeah, double the fun. I mean, double Dirty Rat seems to be working out okay for Rojom. They know what they want to do. They did their job, okay?
It's true.
You don't really blame the grunts who are trying to do their job and doing all the dirty work here.
The Dirty Rat, it does the dirty work. That's kind of how it goes. And yeah, gonna hit.
Okay. Oh, that's pretty valuable.
That's good. Hitting an Azure Drake does cut b787 somewhat down on resources, able to use the Mortal Coil to take it down as well. Though there's just another Azure Drake picked up by b787.
b787
He's just
really
smiling.
annoyed by his opponent's dirty rats because the battle cries are pretty impactful. Azure Drake drawing the cards. I mean, look at it. Outside of this, he's got one Azure Drake left, and then there's no minions. There's
But
nothing
worth
else.
noting as well, Lojom does not have Reno. Not a Reno deck. He's at 15 life, and these Hellfires, they cost him. He has some healing. He does have the Mistress Mixtures. He has Earth and Ring Farseer. He has Refreshment Vendor, but nothing that can just in a single burst bring him massively up in life. And even these small hits, 3 damage from a Jinyu Water Speaker, that really does add up over time. And now both those Hellfires are gone, so yeah, there is still a clear available to Lojom with second-rate Bruiser plus Shadow Flame if he wants it.
Sure. Do you toss in Dirty Rat there just so you can get that extra minion if you do?
I think it's definitely something you have to be thinking about, because you could also hit some sort of Jade generator, but chooses to just go ahead and play the Bruiser plus Shadow Flame. Interesting. I'm a little, I think I would have liked to see the Dirty Rat played there as well. In this instance, would have swept up a Flame Tongue Totem, and frankly, that's actually a reasonable threat because Lojom's down to just 9 life, and any individual minion on the board is going to be a problem if the Flame Tongue Totem is involved.
Yep, he's used, 4 AoE cards in the past 2 turns, or 2.5 turns, I guess.
It also helps punch through things like Ascension Shield Master. We can easily see those minions punch through. Yeah, he's going to play it now.
Got Shadow Bolt for
He does have Shadow Bolt, so he can take it down.
Yeah, and you could just tell also just by the cadence of this game of how fast a lot of these turns are taken, of just kind of the state of what's happening here. Rojom just resigns, says, if I win, I win, but I don't really feel like I'm in a good position to do it. And b787 is
Even
also...
finds Spell Power.
Okay. So that plus the Zealot Initiate trading in should just kind of get almost guaranteed that he gets to clear pretty efficiently and put damage in to the point where if he just draws Jade Lightning, his opponent's just dead, for example.
Rojom here is going to go ahead and trade those 2 up. Oh,
Nice.
He did potentially, if he wanted to get the buff on the 2/2. Oh, that's a nice draw for Lojom there. He's able to buff up his board a little bit and heal for quite a bit. And now b787, he's out of cards. He did just use that Lightning Storm, and now there's a much scarier board. Bloodlust picked up.
Is that it?
I don't think it quite ends the game. He has 10 to go to the face, so he's actually 1 damage off lethal if he sends both to the face. And there's a refreshment vendor.
Yeah, I mean, maybe he's able to pull it back.
This could be a game that Lojom does come back. It's Demon Wrath.
He has Demon Wrath and Refreshment Vendor, and then he can life tab, and he clears the board. Wow.
Yeah. All right, well, I mean, b787, he still has some powerful cards. You see, he's just like, come on, don't make me keep playing this. But okay, he could clear off. Oh, more life gain picked up with the.
That's really important. It's really important because without life, he doesn't have access to the most powerful resource in his deck, which is life tab. And now he does. He can go back up to 13 right now. Doomsayer's not that good, though.
But yeah, Lojom here just still has not a ton of life to work with. Goes up to 11. And going to punch through this, I assume, leaving himself with just 2 minions in play. That Doomsayer, he's the one who needs to hold the board, because b787, he has some powerful draws.
Okay, well, actually, the plan changes. Now b787 is on a plan of just fatiguing his opponent by draining your resources, because this Twilight Drake's going to be a 4/3. That's the best minion that he's got remaining. So he's used both second-rate bruisers, and he's uses Refreshment Vendor. I think he might have 1 Senjin remaining in the deck if he hasn't used it already. But outside of that, that's pretty much it. And there's 4 cards remaining. B787 can now shift
power
plans.
is that he has 5, 6, 7. He could put Lojom down to 2 here, but he could also just use this Jade Lightning as removal. Take out that Twilight Drake.
Yeah.
I believe he gets a 3/3 Jade right now.
Yes.
If I recall correctly, and then he could potentially use Flame Tongue to take out the Imp. Probably not worth it. Maybe.
I do like that. I think the one way you can give your opponent the game is to let him have a board over 3 turns. He has 4 cards remaining in the deck, so if he stops life tapping and just relies on a board with how much power is on board? With 10 power, that's 3 turns. He can kill you. You have to be very mindful of what your opponent can do. B787 is kind of locked because he's not sure what's the right decision here. He already used one of his Jade Lightnings. Does he have any other reach besides that?
He uses Bloodlust. He has Alec here.
Oh, he does have Alec here. Oh,
so if he
changes
were to draw Alec here, then Flame Tongue just becomes lethal.
Yes. So
maybe that might be part of his consideration for whether he wants to use Flame Tongue to just take 1 damage off the board.
Yeah, I think holding on to Flame Tongue is a lot of power here because your opponent has to have Senjin remaining in his deck. Or Defender Vargas. That's a pretty big draw.
That's a big draw for Lojom here.
Anything that is able to help you go on totem duty and start putting pressure to the face is helpful. All hands on deck for Lojom. And, you know, I think this Mistress of Mixtures might even be really valuable in the late stages of the game because it allows you to heal up if fatigue ever becomes a real problem.
Yeah.
So I would definitely look for Lojom to start playing this Mistress of Mixtures here. He's opting not to.
Spirit Claws.
Ryan, I think we have a game on our hands.
This isn't over by any means. B787 can potentially Flame Tongue to take out the 2/2, leaving Lojom with 8 power in play versus 10. It does make, say, that Alec here draw worse.
Yeah, significantly worse. It's no longer a lethal if he draws it.
Well, there are 2 taunts in play regardless, so it would not be lethal anyway. But
yes.
It would still be able to punch through, say, the Imp Gang boss, which it cannot by itself if you do not have access to that. Though with Spirit Claws, you do have that tool.
B787 is trying to count right now and think, should I start chopping away at these taunts? If Spirit Claws over 2 turns accepts 4 extra damage, and your opponent already has 8, so how far does that accelerate your clock?
And only 2 cards
He's
remaining
leaving it up.
in Lojom's deck. Mortal Coil?
I don't know if he actually wants to accelerate his clock for a draw. But
I don't believe so.
I mean, what's the last card remaining in his deck here? I thought it would be Senjin, but it might be something else here. And Lojom, again, he's not playing his Mistress of Mixtures, which I think is going to be important to put onto the board if he actually needs the health, because the game might extend that far. like b787 is clearly going to be in a position where he tries to clear the board and stall Lojom, and he might need some extra time.
Jade Claws gives him a 4/4 and punches down this imp. And now the last card for
Oh
Rojom
my
is a
goodness.
Swamp Ooze, so he's able to kill that. I mean, and b787, he knew that was coming. This is interesting. You did mention that Mixtures of Mixtures. It would have gotten some damage in if he'd played it earlier. And he's going to go ahead and Mortal Coil first. Does not want the card draw. Trading in the 3/3 here, I assume.
All face, all face.
Oh,
And
wow.
just pray your opponent does not have Lightning Storm.
Yeah, no, that's fair. That's definitely does put him on a 2-turn clock here. If he finds Lightning Storm, he's going to just clear the board here.
No,
Another Spirit Claws.
Taunt Totem?
It's a Taunt Totem.
Okay,
I think he
that's
has-
massive.
No, I don't think he actually gets another turn because he attacks into the Imp Gang boss. There's still 9 damage represented after the Taunt
you're
Totem. I
right.
think this is it. I think Lojom is actually going to win this game.
Oh my goodness, it comes down to the 30th card here for Lojom, getting that ooze and getting that board presence.
Yeah, also,
I am right now in what if mode, Brian. What if he won the previous game? Lojom would have a 2-1 lead going to game number 4. And this series is so upside down for me.
yeah, and there it is. I think the concession coming in from b787. So Lojom, he has improved upon his performance in the Swiss Round 7. He won a game over b787. He still has to win 2 more with this anti-aggro Warlock deck against control decks. It's going to be an uphill battle.
Well, he actually has to beat the Jade Shaman.
Specifically, yeah.
Yes, which is, according by most metrics, the second best
Oh,
deck
wait.
in the game.
I got that backwards.
Right. So he has to beat it with the Paladin, which is always something that we're really worried about. But hey, maybe Paladin's got Consecration and hey, we mentioned how Reno Warlock can dream out of resources. Paladin also has a decent amount of card draw, and then that just brings them down to probably the hardest matchup in the entire lineup, which is Control Warrior against Jade Shaman, where his Control Warrior is pretty much just removal and no win conditions.
I think that it will be definitely uphill for Lojom from here. We did say, I don't know if he's going to win a game. He won a game. So there is clearly still some
Yes.
shred of hope available for Lojom here.
If I'm Lojom, I make sure I lose this next game. Because I don't want to be stuck in a position where the 5th game is just completely unwinnable, and I realize that if I won with my Warrior in that Warrior versus Warrior game, which was an atrocity to witness, I might add. I can't believe that my own 2 or 4 eyes had to watch that game and go down and realize that if I'm Lojom, I threw away my chance to go to Bahamas.
I mean, it's clearly got to be pretty tough. And we saw he seemed stressed out in a lot of points. He seemed kind of despondent, missing an attack with Harrison Jones. And he seemed to realize that he had messed up in that game. So he was able to keep his cool in that game. I do think that the matchup before that we just saw, a little bit of a misstep. I agree that he should have played the Mistress of Mixtures prior to when he did. But it ended up working out for him. So now it'll be the Paladin deck, the only Paladin in the entire tournament. So let's take a look at some of what makes this deck tick. This is not Control Paladin in the sense that it has, the big end game win condition like, say, anything can happen. He doesn't even have Tyrion in his deck. He has just Ragnaros Lightlord. This is really the key. He is removal central.
Yes.
While Pyromancer gives him the ability to clear off boards of small minions, the Consecration does exactly the same. True Silver Champion helps deal with those slightly bigger things, and then Forbidden Healing keeps him alive. Pairs all of this with Equality. He has Aldor Peacekeepers, various defensive pools, and life gain. This is like his Warlock deck, a real individual choice from him. This is not a deck that you've seen on ladder, not like something that's in any metagame snapshot. It is a Lojom special, and it's gonna be put to the test right now against Jade Shaman.
What a series so far. Game number 4 underway here. Lojom has an opening hand that's okay, and b787 doesn't have that very quick start that he's looking for. Normally you're looking for that Tunnel Trog, trying to get off to a fast start with Totem Golem. Instead he's going to be passing. Now, one of the things that we don't really mention that often anymore, big time draw. That was a really big draw, because now he can bully the 1-1s. But one thing that I wanted to bring up was, and one of the most insightful things that Admiral ever told to me, was that 1-1s beat 0-2s. And so Paladin in a vacuum, if the game goes long enough and becomes a war of attrition, is that the Paladin hero power will heavily control the state of the board against Shaman. So if Lojom ever gets the opportunity to fight, which seems to be a scrappy back and forth in every single game, maybe he can win through the war of attrition that way.
Yeah, he does have access to board clears. He does have access to Consecration. He does have access to Quality and Pyromancer. So he has the ability to clear off those big boards that the Jade Shaman can generate. But this card right here is going to cause him problems. The Bloodlust, already waiting in b787's hand, so if he is able to get any foothold on the board in the middle of the game, it could potentially just give him a lethal attack thanks to the attack buff of the Bloodlust.
Yep, and that's why hero powering and not really doing much else, hero power pass, can actually be a legitimate fear for Rojom because he's worried behind at the back of his head. What about Flame Tongue? What about Bloodlust? You're absolutely right, Brian. But Paladin is one of the best classes at clearing wide boards. I mean, Equality and Consecration and Pyromancer are some of the strongest tools you can ever find in the game for how you can deal with a wide board, especially against Shaman.
And Rojom, the true silver champion, giving him finally a way to deal with that totem golem. b787, though, I expect we'll see him keep up with the totem up strategy, continuing to get value out of that hero power. If he has a 50% chance of hitting a Stoneclaw totem, which would do very well to protect the Mana Tide totem in his hand, and that could give him additional resources that can power him even further above Rojom's ability to answer. It's Stoneclaw, and yeah, exactly that happens. The Mana Tide totem comes down. Now that's protected from True Silver Champion, so we may see a Consecration come out from Rojom this turn in order to clear off these totems and give him access to killing that totem.
Man, that's interesting. I wonder, because if you use Consecration, you're using Consecration essentially to kill Mana-Tide.
You are, and you've got to do it. Mana Tide totem is going to give b787 so many resources. Not only that, you clear off those other totems, which are giving b787 threat with Flame Tongue or with Bloodlust.
It just feels like so. Consecration, I think, is one of the three most important cards in this matchup. And now that your opponent's seen one Consecration, all he has to worry about is one more Consecration and the Pyromancers. So it feels like it's a little bit too early, perhaps. But I do understand the sentiment. Mana Tide Totem can sometimes win the game by itself.
There's only one Mana Tide totem in b787's deck. So he is not going to be able to present that threat of just the resources continuing to get out of hand for the rest of the game. So he's going to be just presenting the threat of totem after totem and jade after jade instead.
And I gotta say, I think this is the effect that you're starting to see of the Totem Golem coming out for b787, because the board advantage is completely in favor of b787 and not Rojom. Rojom actually had a decent curve to be able to make sure he hit minions after his turn 2 hero power. But he's never given an opportunity, really, to develop his Engine Shield Master or a second-rate Bruiser.
And I expect that he'll have trouble finding that opportunity. I would also expect to see b787 holding on to those Flame Tongue totems in his hand, rather than just using them to push damage, in order to punch through those taunts once they come down. It can give him the ability to turn those totems from his hero power into legitimate ways to trade with the actual resources of his opponent.
Well, there's two ways to go about it. One is, like you mentioned, be very conservative, space your threats, try to outlast your opponent. Or the other is to pressure your opponent, force them to essentially use like Pyromancer Quality on just trash. It's like 2 totems and a Flame Tongue and a Jinyu. It's like, you're kind of going 2 cards for 2 cards, essentially.
I think in this matchup, I would tend to go with just the pure attrition plan. Rojom does not have a long game win condition. If I were playing against Anything Can Happen Paladin, a more traditional version of a control Paladin deck, I feel like I have to actually kill my opponent because they have something that puts a clock on me. 787, though, he goes with the Flame Tongue here, just pushing that damage and really going to demand that removal from Rojom here.
I mean, he has Bloodlust and Alec here.
Yeah,
I don't mind that.
This is definitely putting the question to Rojom. He has to answer this now, and he can continue to just build boards that pose this question every turn, or at least every few turns, that will force Rojom to answer. That's the power of Bloodlust.
Very important sequencing from Rojom here to play Equality first, so that way when he plays Pyromancer, it stays onto the board, and now he can coin out a 4-drop. Does have the opportunity to play second-rate Bruiser, though, for cheaper, which might be better because on turn 8, he has 2 Engine Shield Masters that can come out here. Okay, chooses instead to just play this engine, more mana efficient, and he can save that for another rainy day. Plus, Wicker Frame Burn Bristle, that card is also pretty impactful. Probably wants to get that out in the next coming turns, along with Farseer.
b787's Jades are not very big. He has those 2 Jade Claws. I believe he has not cast a single Jade spell yet. There wasn't a Jade Lightning. These are the first Jade Claws. So his Jades actually in this deck don't get that big. He does not have Jade Spirit. So he's more using them just as just a traditional attrition style of tool. And
Say that 5 times. Wow, he's using Alec here right now just as removal.
I think that he fears falling behind on the board because that's where, given his hand, Lojom could really start to put pressure on him because he doesn't have the tools to really fight back against an individual large taunt when he has nothing on the board. That's why getting to this position for Lojom is actually quite powerful because it ends up giving him the ability to actually put b787 in a position where his hero power is no longer valuable.
You're staring at a weapon, you're staring at Wild Pyromancer, and Alec here trades 1-for-1 with a 4-mana minion. You're really behind on tempo. Without that Lightning Storm draw, b787 would have been in big trouble. And that was
he gets a high result from the Lightning Storm on the Senjin, allow him to take it down right now. And now with the weapon and getting a bit of a foothold on the board, that Flame Tongue Totem in his hand is going to start to become a threat.
Yeah, that was a very fortuitous for b787. If that didn't go exactly that way, he would be in huge trouble. As a result, right now he's still in trouble, but it's definitely more manageable than it would be if he didn't get that Lightning Storm. Because right now there's a decent amount of power on board. There's 12 power on board. That's 2 turns right now, and b787, the best way he can remove is just use weapon and Flame Tongues.
And yeah, this is where the Paladin can take a foothold. He's been able to get a significant number of minions in play. Lightning Storm's gone. We haven't seen b787 draw a lot of his key cards to really get his resources going. He did have that Mana Tide, which Lojom crucially removed very quickly. He's not found Azure Drake. He has not found Aya Blackpaw. He doesn't have the tools that allow him to really keep going through his deck and finding those bigger threats. So he doesn't want to use this Flame Tongue here because it's going to die just on the board. But at the same time, it's going to get worse and worse if Lojom just continues to have a superior board presence, and he may just not have an opportunity to use it at all. Yeah, he's going to go ahead and use Flame Tongue to just take down this second-rate bruiser, because otherwise, these minions are just going to keep killing the totems every turn, keep killing all the minions every turn, and it will never do anything.
He's not going to play the second Jade Claws here for any minion board presence.
Well, I believe there are multiple copies of weapon removal in Lojom's deck.
Is that really the position you're in?
Well, the weapon can remove this Wicker Flame Burn Bristle, but yeah, just more minions, more minions.
Right, I don't know. This is looking like a Paladin is taking charge of the board.
Oh, is this Lightning Storm? No. Oh, but it's Thing from Below and Jade Claws here. So the Thing from Below will get Humility'd. You do see that waiting in the hand. And these two minions, a 2/3 and a 2/2 against an army of 3/3s.
Yeah, and Humility lets him get some value
chopping
trades.
Away.
The value trades are extremely valuable for Lojom in this position, primarily because his opponent doesn't have any access to Maelstrom Portal. He already saw one portal be used. He saw a Lightning Storm be used. It's very unlikely your opponent can deal with it. And this is the position we were talking about. Paladin hero power is so strong in this position because they traded so many resources, and now these 1/1s are really going to start piling on in the next couple turns.
b787, he has to find Lightning Storm. He's really far behind on this board, and if he can find Lightning Storm, it will give him. I was actually debating whether he just wants to push damage to face or kill this 2/2.
Let's see. So if the 2/2 kills off one of the 3 attack minions, I think he still has the damage anyway.
Yeah, I think he's just trying to set up for lethal next turn, giving him a 1-turn win.
No,
That's
he got Tunnel Trog.
We're going to game 5.
Ah, well, hold on. He still can get a Taunt Totem, I think, which keeps him alive.
Taunt Totem
1 out of 3.
Keep it.
Oh my goodness!
What? Wait, he can Bloodlust to trade off the 0/2 totem to stay alive.
Gives him one more turn.
And if he just gets a no, he's gonna concede. He's not even gonna look at his options. I think Lojom put b787 on tilt now.
No, if he did use Bloodlust to kill off 2 of those minions, Bloodlust and the minion on board and the weapon, he could kill 3 things. There would be a 3/3 or a 3/2 and 2 1/1s remaining. So he'd still be under significant threat, but he has the ability to draw into very powerful cards that could swing that game.
Yes, he has 2 Maelstrom Portals and 2 Lightning Storms in the deck. Not to mention he could draw additional taunts or find a way to work whatever he had, but he just gave up at that point. And now we're at a tied series, Brian. And now I want to ask the question, what if? What if Lojom was supposed to win 3-1? What if he's the chosen one, Brian?
I mean, it looks like he might be. Yeah, this is a matchup we were talking about, how he would just potentially get crushed. He lost 3-0 in the Swiss. If he's able to come back and win this now, it would be just an enormous upset.
With his lineup, that's
dedicated to killing any kind of aggressive strategy. His opponent right now, 0 aggressive decks. All control or mid-range strategies aim to kill aggro themselves. Both of them have the same exact idea, but they went different routes, and now people were saying that there was a 0% chance for Lojom to win. That 0% chance is now risen to above 0, and it's putting b787 under a lot of stress here.
Look at him. He's clearly shaken. And this is something that he was talking about, we mentioned with Soddle earlier. He reached out to him and said, this is my match to lose. The pressure's on me here. Everyone thinks I'm going to win. Everyone thinks my opponent is going to lose. So he's the only one who's in the position to really lose anything. Lojom here, everyone expects, yeah, you're done for. You lost 3-0, you're going to lose 3-0 again. Now they're 2-2. This game's for everything.
Nothing scarier than a man who fears nothing to lose, right? At
Yeah.
this point, Lojom says, you know what? I'm probably not going to win, but at this point, b787 needs to win this game. No more room for error. We're going to game number 5. Now keep in mind, this warrior, again, has a lot of differences from the traditional one. A lot of early game tools to make sure they don't die to aggro. He has a bolster in the deck, for crying out loud. No brawls, no Justicar Trueheart, no Sylvanas. A lot of these cards that are really helping him in the late stage of the game are not going to be there.
And we've also mentioned that this version of Jade Shaman is not as Jade dedicated as some other versions. He doesn't have Jade Spirit in his deck. So he doesn't have as much of the inevitability of the massive Jades that some versions do. He does have that Bloodlust, and there are no copies of Brawl in Lojom's deck. So if he is able to establish a large board, the only board clears that Lojom has access to are damage-based, though he does have Sleep with the Fishes, which could be a big deal in his opening hand. Fiery War Axe, also an important draw.
That is a massive draw here. Lojom picking up an opportunity to win back the board. I was saying, well, if he can't deal with Tunnel Trog and Feral Spirits, this game would be lights out. But Lojom, once again, in a position to upset b787, who many considered was a 100-0 favorite. They were saying that convincing, and nothing in Hearthstone has ever been that guaranteed until now.
Yeah, I mean, looking at this match, looking at this deck list, I was saying that I thought this was a done deal. I was saying that I thought that Lojom, as much as I wanted him to win, was not going to win, and he is on the precipice of doing just that.
Ooh, big time Stoneclaw Totem here from b787, stopping the Fiery War Axe from being able to get a little bit more value right away. And that also sets up for better Flame Tongue trades, but it doesn't look like anything very clean here. And b787 introduced with a little bit of an awkward roadblock.
Yeah, Aya is a big draw for b787. That's a very powerful tool in this matchup, providing multiple bodies that demand removal, also powering up his Jades multiple times. So if he does find the Jade Claws, Jade Lightnings, those will be much more powerful as the game goes on. Looks like Feral Spirits is the play from b787, and that may walk right into Ravaging Ghoul Sleep from the Fishes next turn.
Wow. Oh, you're right. That is exactly what he's walking into. Flame Tongue Totems will help him get some good
huge
trades.
commitment to this board.
You know what? I mean, he's saying you have to have Sleep with the Fishes because Revenge is not active. And that's exactly the position that Lojom wanted his opponent to put himself into.
This is an enormous swing.
Oh my goodness.
Suddenly, not only that entire board is gone, b787, he committed the coin there.
Yeah.
Overloaded there, so he can't coin out the Aya this turn that we were talking about. Does get a card off the Mana Tide Totem, but now this is a situation for Lojom.
Oh no.
He's now ahead on the board and able to pressure these totems with minions.
I can't
It's the same thing that happened in the last game with the Paladin.
I can't believe what I'm watching. If you're looking at one-for-one value in terms of what's in the hand here, Hex goes down onto the Armor Smith, but how does he deal with the Grommash in the next few turns? I mean, it still has a lot of Hearthstone left to be played here, but Lojom is looking better and better by the turn.
He's drawn a bunch of his important threats, too. He has that Grom. He has this one Acolyte of Pain in his deck. So if a Lightning Storm comes down, he's going to pick up some more cards.
I mean, does this board really warrant a Lightning
Get
Storm?
the Frog enabling King's Defender.
There you go.
The taunt from Frog buffed up the Defender. I've seen everything.
We can't control the cards we're dealt, but we can sure make the best of them. When life gives you frogs, you play King's Defenders.
Apparently so.
And at this point, if you're b787, you have 2 Lightning Storms and Jade Lightning.
Look at his face. He is clearly so stressed out. He said coming in, the pressure is on me, and the pressure is on him right now.
All right, well, Aya still is a very fearsome threat, but the problem is I think your Jades aren't developed enough, so it actually activates the Acolyte of Pain? Is there justification for taking a slow Jade Lightning on the Acolyte?
The thing is, even the Frog is a big deal. That Searing Totem, a big deal. He has to use Jade Lightning on the Acolyte of Pain to prevent draws.
Wow, and you know what, too? If B787 picks up some of his highest value cards, Jade Claws or his Spirit Claws, it plays directly into Harrison Jones. Lojom also saw Hex. Grommash Hellscream has hit the board.
This is a fast clock.
B787 is on a hard clock right now to survive right now because he has 2 Lightning Storms, and that's not enough to clear off the Grommash Hellscream.
Look at his face. He's just grinning at the absurdity of what is happening to him. He was thinking, everyone was thinking, that this was all but written, that
Lojom was thinking.
Yeah. I mean, we saw Rojom's attitude in the previous games, how just he seemed to be despondent. He's given up. You know?
Oh, wait, Hope. He has Jade Claws, which allows him to potentially remove Grommash, and that is a very expensive way because you have to pay 10 health in order to do it. But if you don't check Grom here, what's the other best way you can do it? You have Alec here, which kind of gets in the way, but not really. Your opponent's holding weapons, and you know he probably has ways to remove it.
Maybe we'll see the Aya come down along with the Jade Claws or the Totem. He, amusingly enough, has to get through the Frog. Alec here is potentially one of his ways to kill Grom if he's able to get some damage on it. But if he doesn't get through that Frog, yeah, he's going to have to go ahead and use Jade Claws to punch that down. And now, this is an opportunity for Harrison to come down and get value. And there's still just a ton of pressure. There's 16 damage.
On to get in the way of a minion.
This is just a nightmare for B787.
Okay, so what he can do is keep his board alive, use the weapon to remove the 3/3, use the Ravaging Ghoul to change to 2/2, play Bloodhood Brave, and go 10 to the face and set up a 2-turn lethal and put himself in a winning position to take this series, Brian, when he had no business being competitive at all in this best of 5.
Yeah, everyone was counting him out, and now Lojom, he is potentially 1 turn away from booking his ticket to the Bahamas.
B787 has 2 Lightning Storms. If the Lightning Storms work out the way that it has to hit 3 on both. That's the key right here for B787
You
to
can
survive.
roll Spell Power or draw a Blood Mage Stalnos. There's no Blood Mage Stalnos. He either has to double high roll or roll Spell Power in order to be able to get through and kill this Grom.
Is that his best option? Is there any opportunity to play Alec here? I don't think so.
Alec here just runs in the Blood of Brave. It doesn't do anything.
Yeah, the spell damage totem, so it's the 1 in 4 totem outcomes right now for him to survive.
If he hits the spell damage, he's guaranteed to be able to clear the board. If he doesn't, he has the opportunity to double high roll with the Lightning Storms to clear off the Blood of Brave and then attack into the Grommash with his Aya. Is it spell power?
No, it's not. He needs 2 3s.
I mean, we see
on the
there's a
Lightning
sigh of
Storm.
relief from Lojom there. He knew that this was big.
He's at the finish line. B787 has to play both of these Lightning Storms. That only happens 1 out of every 4 times. Here's Lightning Storm number 1. 2 already! It's only a 2, which means that he can't deal with it. And I can't believe what I'm seeing here, Brian.
But he is actually at 14. There's 13 damage represented. There's not lethal just yet. He was able to clear off enough threats.
And he has Jinyu Water Speaker.
1 more damage can end the game.
What in his deck can actually generate that damage?
He has another weapon.
Oh boy.
This is actually not quite over. It is enough damage to remove everything.
You're right.
So he can put him down to 1 if he wants. He can also attack into the 4/4 and play that Whirlwind, clear off the board, leave just Grom alive.
Leave just Grom alive, but he knows that Grom is pretty much easy to kill from this point on. There's a lot of things that can deal with it. And B787 has Alec here, and he also has the Jinyu Water Speaker. Revenge Execute to just try to maximize his resources. I like it. You have 2 executes in the hand. But is that enough for Lojom? 1 damage off. 1 damage has never felt so big.
Oh, and there's the Jade Lightning and the Jinyu Water Speaker. He's getting back out of range.
Well, he's overloaded. So he had double Lightning Storm, so he can't play the Jinyu Water Speaker right now.
You're totally right. Oh, but he didn't attack the War Axe.
He didn't attack the previous
If
turn.
he had attacked.
Oh no, Alec here's come out too.
Oh my God, Lojom
No,
if
not
he
like
had
this.
attacked with King's Defender last turn, that Fire War Axe is lethal.
Not like this.
We saw the look in his face when he picked that up.
This is
I mean, we
amazing
were
TV,
talking about
Brian.
what his outs were, what could do that one more damage. The answer was Fire War Axe. He drew it, but he did not attack last turn.
I think that is literally the only other damage source in his deck was another weapon, unless he was able to get something else miraculously out of his opponent. But he had Bash,
And now
he still has out. He still has outs with Bash.
And now Dirty Rat brings out Alec here. Well, he hasn't attacked. Now there's a taunt in the way.
well, oh, you're right. And then Water Speaker's gonna come out the other turn.
Oh my God.
Oh no,
This
Lojom
game
once again.
was so close.
How many
It was
times?
in his hands.
Are
And
you gonna
now
do this,
the
Lojom?
heal, there's Bloodlust. There's so much damage. Alec here, Bloodlust. There's no brawls. There's no Sleep with the Fishes left.
You're right. He stays alive. Execute's gonna come down though, and that healing totem was also really important too to heal outside the range. The Whirlwind can't reach it. B787 has another taunt to get into the way. In what world can Lojom be able to turn this around here? He has to pick up another way to.
In the world where he attacked with King's Defender.
From this point on, okay, Shield Slam helps him stay alive. Right now he's got Execute, Shield Slam, Fiery War Axe to get through stuff here.
He can
That helps
take
him
out
clear almost
the
everything.
two taunts, but now he's the one fighting to stay alive. He doesn't have outs for lethal. Grom's gone. He has no burst damage. He has frankly no real threats remaining in his deck at this point.
And you can see the concluding turns here in this game. We're gonna find out what ends up happening. I mean, I think if I'm Lojom, I'm going face.
What are you hoping to draw?
He has two badges in his deck. If he doesn't get a taunt totem and he doesn't die, maybe he has a chance, but Bloodlust is right now 12 damage on top of the 8.
Oh, there's a taunt totem too. The outs are getting slimmer and slimmer.
He needs a revenge here. A revenge or a Ravaging Cold to stay alive. Alley Armorsmith, I think that helps him stay alive, perhaps?
It soaks up effectively 9 damage because it takes 7 and gains him 2 life. But this is not about just staying alive.
Is that
doesn't
it?
play it.
I think that's it.
And B787, he was the massive favorite coming in, and by the skin of his teeth, gets by Lojom to book his ticket to the Bahamas.
Congratulations to B787, being able to do what we all thought he was going to do from the very beginning. Boy, did he make it dramatic.
That was far more exciting of a match than I thought we were going to get coming in. That was crazy.
I'm exhausted. Can I go home?
I'm gonna go take a nap in the green room after this. But yeah, I'm emotionally drained.
I can't even
I was just like,
deal with
oh my
that.
God, is Lojom gonna do it?
And
And he
Lojom
was so close.
he had it. He had 2 games where he should have won. This series was a 1-4 victory for B787. That is my summary of this best of 5.
And yeah, I mean the choice not to attack with the King's Defender, you have to be thinking, what has to happen for me to win this game?
Right.
You know, what has to happen for me to be able to come back if my opponent has more to follow this up? Because he was out of all his big threats. And he drew exactly the card that would have won the game if he just attacked the turn before.
Thank you very much. Oh my God.
All right, we've got B787 on the line here just to chat about qualifying for the championships. How you feeling right now, man?
Absolutely wonderful.
That sounds more like relief than excitement than anything.
Just walk us through the series. Talk about what was on your mind from the very beginning all the way to the last cards being played.
Well, I was pretty confident with my Warlock and my Warrior getting through, but I was kind of worried about my Shaman because kind of, like you saw, it was kind of 50-50-ish. So yeah, I tried to bring my Shaman last to like sort of just win with the first 2 to get the momentum going, and yeah, just that last game was insane and all that.
There was mentioned that you felt like there was a lot of pressure on you because there's so much expectation for you to win. Can you talk about that a little bit more in depth?
Oh yeah, because like my lineup, everyone said it was so favored, but I didn't think it was. It's favored, but the fact that I've never played against this kind of deck was like kind of weird because like, you know, like if you can't remember all the cards and expect what's coming, then it's really hard to play against. So yeah, that was kind of what was going through my mind when I said that. I felt a lot of pressure and possibilities of losing and all that. Yeah.
Was there anything in particular that you felt like caught you particularly off guard in the games or in the lineup?
Well, not really. I tried to practice a lot to sort of expect everything that was coming, but honestly, I don't know.
A lot to process, I'm sure. But if we can ask one more question, looking forward now instead of looking back on what just happened, you're going to the Bahamas. You're going to be joining a field of 16 competitors. You know, and Japan has also had multiple people go to the championships and really represent. How much does that resonate within you to be able to represent Japan as part of APAC and going to the championships?
I do feel a lot of pressure, but I'm pretty confident that I'm going. I practice a lot. I don't know, like,
Hey man, no worries. You have about a month before you have to figure out what the right things to say, the right interview answers, and the right trash talk. Think about it for a while, but for now,
just so much.
just process everything, man. You're going to the championship. Congratulations, B787. We'll see you at the championships.
Get some rest. You earned it.
Thank you.
All right, so taking a look at how this series, and just taking a step back here, Brian. You know, we had such an amazing amount of games and tension and drama going on, and just look at the face of B787 throughout the entire match.
Yeah, I mean, he clearly was feeling the pressure in this match. You know, things that in a matchup that everyone felt was going to go his way, it was slipping away from him game after game. Came all the way down to the final game. I mean, just look at the excitement, the relief. It clearly was a huge deal to him to win this.
Yeah, and you've heard a lot of our reactions, a lot of our words, and I'm really curious on how TJ and Eric felt on that series.
What did I just watch?
I don't know.
Lojom, you were the chosen one, man.
You were the chosen one.
I don't know, man. I don't know.
I'm very dissatisfied with this match.
Yes.
It was exciting and and it's very emotional. And I think that's really one of the awesome parts is kind of seeing that human element to it and how much the pressure's getting to him and what it means. But it's very rare in Hearthstone, I think, that you can have a linear approach and have that be successful. There is absolutely no tricks or anything fancy in Lojom's lineup. B787 can just identify how many minions he needs to kill and win the game that way. He can quite literally fatigue him in almost every single match. And it seems like every single time he was just focused on pushing the action and putting himself at risk, where that's quite literally Lojom's plan. Just kill every single minion in the opposing deck, and he's equipped to do that, but there's a few more tricks in B787's lineup than what Lojom has, and I think that was a big oversight when thinking about this match, because I think he could have just killed every single minion in a row and easily won the games.
Yeah, certainly. You know, how do we feel about strategies that people are talking about when it comes to tournaments? They say you have to play patches. You have to play, you know, these lineups that Pavel and some of these other guys are really pioneering. 2 Pirates, 2 Renos, or maybe all aggro. Now we're seeing a control lineup. Do you think this is really sustainable, or is it just a one-off because people weren't expecting it?
To be honest, I think, you know, it's pretty admirable to bring a lineup like this late in the meta because of the fact that, you know, nobody's been doing this. Nobody's done this. And I think this opens up, you know, some questions. I don't necessarily know if this is something that's going to be sustainable in the future. If people are going to be able to target very specific lineups, very linear play, like you mentioned. His strategy was just there. It was on the table. He wasn't trying to surprise anybody. He was just trying to brute force it. And to be honest, I'm just so surprised that he even made it to Game 5. The casters were talking about backstage that Lojom had like a 1% chance to win the series. And he was 1 weapon swing away from winning a series. 1 weapon swing away from winning a series.
I mean, I got to agree with Brian on that point. You have to identify how you actually win the game. If that means that you have to draw the right card, play as though you're going to draw that card. You're not going to win any other way. But as far as the tournament lineup is concerned, I think that it's still fairly early in competitive Hearthstone. You know, we're only a few years into the game's lifespan, and formats like Conquest do allow you to do some pretty crazy things at times. So I think the bar has now been set, and Lojom has done it. Who's going to find the next way to target? People have been targeting all tournament long in terms of you know, HCT's history, but never quite to this extent.
Yeah, definitely. And now B787, after probably one of the craziest, most intense matches of Hearthstone I've seen in a long time. A refreshing match as well, but a frustrating one. So many emotions, I can't handle it. But he's going to move on to face Yolsik in the semifinals. But both those guys are going to the Bahamas, so big congratulations to them, as we'll see them in the Winter Championship. But it's next match coming up is going to be Samuel Sal versus Gundam Flame. This one's going to be a doozy. But let's get into the third semifinal, or third quarterfinal, starting right now.
Yesterday,